Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with the Raw Life Health Show, and I have been eating a raw food diet now for going on almost 20 years, and I've been doing a raw vegan diet for almost 20 years. And after doing this, I often say when it comes to disease, there's no panaceas. The raw food diet is a wonderful way to eat, and they believe will keep you healthiest and prevent disease for the longest time. However, that's not a panacea, and that doesn't mean if you're on a raw vegan diet, you can't get an illness. And if anyone tells you that, I wouldn't really listen to what else they have to say, because that's a big mistake when it comes to health, thinking that the raw food diet or any diet out there is a so-called panacea and could help avoid us from all disease and everything else. I am convinced that the man has messed with the food so much, even the organic food and the soil that it's grown in, that it is impossible to get all we need from just food, even if we're eating a raw food diet. We need some sort of supplementation. Now let me make it clear so you don't misunderstand what I just said. You can get everything you need from food if you're getting foods in a supplement form. But you can't just go and eat things from the health food store and get everything you need. There are some people that grow all their food exclusively, but even then I think the soil is so messed up today, even if they're putting in the soil things that'll help the food grow and help the soil be more rich, I still think we need some form of supplementation, whether it be a whole food supplementation or something else. And there are just things that are commonly known today, like vitamin D3. Some people say, well, if you live in a northern climate, you should take vitamin D because you're not getting out all day to get the sun. Well, down here in the southern climate, down here in Florida, where it's tropical, you know, I go outside and the streets are empty because it's too hot outside for people to go outside, so they're not getting the sun. So vitamin D3 might be something that many people are lacking in. And I'm not going to go off the standard American diet in the world, but I'll tell you within a raw food diet, there are the common things. For example, I know a lot of meat eaters that are deficient in vitamin B12. But you know what? I know a lot of vegetarians and vegans that are deficient in it as well. We need to supplement with vitamin B12, in my opinion. Now, if you're a person that's never supplemented with vitamin B12 and you're doing okay, that's great, but it's just a matter of time before something happens. Can I get vitamin B12 from sea vegetables and spirulina and some herbs? Possibly so. Am I assimilating them? Possibly so. But why not play it safe? One of the first interviews I've ever done was with a fellow who was on a raw vegan diet for over 25, 30 years at that time, and this was over 20, 25 years ago or so. And I asked him, is he getting all the vitamins he needs? And he said, well, I might have a vitamin B12 deficiency. So what? That's what he said. And back then I thought, me being new to the raw food diet, I said, wow, that's just, what a great guy, you know, so what? But now I think, what a big mistake that was. Because in time, those deficiencies that create minor illnesses or inconveniences can turn into some serious issues. So what? So take a B12 supplement, not so what? You know, to make sure, especially if you think you have one. But there are other things that we might not realize we have. This is why I'm such a big fan of Dr. Shandell. And Dr. Shandell has something called the longevity blood profile test. I think the blood is a wonderful messenger of the body to tell us what's going on. How we feel should be one of the factors to tell us if what we're doing is working, but not the only factor. And unfortunately, many people use it as the only factor. I think we got to go by how we feel, our digestion, our sleep, our mood, and also our blood work. And I think many people overlook the importance of blood work, and then even when they do see the importance of blood work, many people, unfortunately, all they decide to do is get the standard blood test, and the standard blood test is pretty much a waste of money because it doesn't tell you much. I know a lot of people that eat a very bad diet, and I always ask them, how's your blood work? Oh, everything's great. Well, maybe everything on that standard test is great, but there's a lot more than that. Many years ago, when I first went to Dr. Shandell, he showed me that I had some issues with bone density. And this was being out in the raw food diet for several years. There's no way I could have known that by just going by how I felt, my digestion, my sleep, my mood. I felt amazing. I do feel amazing. I mean, exercise and fitness-wise, I could do more than just about anyone my height and size that's not taking some steroid or something. I'm a very fit person. I had no signs of any low bone density or anything. Then there was a study with all the raw foodists out there by a fellow in St. Louis, and I was part of that study. And that study was pretty much a waste of money and a waste of time and everything else for everybody, because I said when he was testing me, you know, tell me a little bit about the other people you're testing. He said, well, if anyone's eating at least 75% raw foods, I'm considering them a raw foodist. I said, do you take into account what the other 25% is? Do you take into account what that raw food is? And none of that was considered. So they came out with this saying raw food is blah, blah, blah. But that had, it wasn't raw foodist. So we see all these things. Anyway, Dr. Shindell looked at my blood work. He gave me a couple of supplements to take. He told me to make some adjustments in my diet. And everything was fine again. So, you know, it's very important and helpful, even though if you think you got the bases covered, to cover the bases. I'm not trying to scare you into eating a raw vegan diet. I believe it's the best way to go, because I believe the key when it comes to our diet is taking in as many nutrients as we could while making the body use the least amount of energy to get those nutrients. That's what I think it comes down to from a diet standpoint. So if I eat something like an apple and my body's going to eat that apple, I'm going to get, especially if it's organic apple, I will get the most out of that apple I possibly could. Because the apple has the most in there. Number one, because it's organic and it's raw. And number two, it's not processed. So I'm eating that apple, and processing it myself with my own teeth, giving the body what it was designed to do, take the nutrients from that apple and get rid of the waste. That's a very simple example. Now you take something like an apple pie, the standard American apple pie. You go to, let's say, to McDonald's and you get a microwave oven piece of apple pie that's been processed, that's not organic. So your body, now we've taken that apple and we've destroyed most of the things in there and made it harder for the body to process. So now we're giving the body the least amount of nutrients and making it harder to get rid of what it needs, and it leaves a tremendous amount of waste left over, creating a depletion in energy, and this continues the problem. So the key is to take in the foods that give us the most and use the least to process, digest, and get rid of. And that would be the raw vegan diet, if we do it properly combined and we don't overeat. But we look at the standard American diet, or even the raw food diet not properly combined, and when people overeat, it might give us more than a regular average diet, but still it's a lot to get rid of, and it takes a lot of energy from the body. You know, the body doesn't need that much. We need calories, yes, and we need to make sure we have enough calories to do our daily activity. You know, if we're burning more calories than we're taking in, that can create an issue. You know, I always say, though, people say, well, I'm an ultra marathon runner or something, or even a marathon runner. I say, look, if you want to run a marathon for some time in your life, that's wonderful. But if your life consists on running marathons, that is way too much wear and tear on the body, and eventually it will catch up to you. Now, if you know that exception of a guy that runs marathons and is living to 100 years old in some little village around the world, hey, that's great. But I know it's a wear and tear on the body that's unnecessary. Whether it's outside from the physical fitness exercise, or whether it's from our diet, taking too much stuff in and consistently make the body work and never giving the body a chance to rest, it will catch up to us. So we got to just cover the bases and stay ahead of the game here. And, you know, the science technology today has some good tools to diagnose and make sure we know where we're at and what we're doing, and if what we're doing is working for us. I certainly think that the raw vegan diet is better than any other diet out there. I think we can improve it even more with supplementation, but not just making the same mistake that a lot of people make, and they just take supplements. They just take a whole bunch of supplements. The problem many people are making is they're not taking the supplements that they need. They're not figuring out, well, this is what I need and this is what I need. So they're wasting a lot of money. And then from the herbal side of things, you got a lot of people taking herbs that are medicinal, but they're taking them on the average day just in the same amounts they're taking the supplements, and that can create a very toxic environment as well, or reaction as well. So we want to make sure that we're understanding what we're doing. We're not just doing it. At first, we can get away with a lot of things, but eventually it's going to catch up to us. So I always say better safe than sorry. So I'm here to help you with the raw vegan diet. I still think it's a great thing to do. Especially me, I had inflammatory bowel disease, and when I was younger, because I ate the standard American diet, and I started to eliminate those things that were creating the problem, and now I'm putting things back in the body that's going to help improve the problem. We neglect other things and other aspects. It's not all about diet. I mean, being fit is very important and can prolong our health. But that too needs to be well balanced, and I must be kept on it to make sure we're doing it the right way. And there is a right way and a wrong way to do just about everything. And if you do it the wrong way, you're going to end up in trouble. And we all know, or I know many people that have overtrained or trained the wrong way and got themselves hurt. But physical exercise is very important and helpful. Let me give you an example of what I did this morning, because I already told you a couple of weeks ago how much food I eat or how little food I eat. So let me give you an example. This morning I got up around 5:30 in the morning. I had to do some errands for about an hour or so. And then after I got home, I went metal detecting for about an hour. And after doing that metal detecting, and I would equivalent metal detecting a little bit more than a brisk walk. So it's not the most hardest exercise in the world, but when I say it's more than a brisk walk, because you are walking, you're not walking too quickly, but you're walking a lot, you're going up hills. It's almost like a hike. You're hiking pretty much, of course, depending where you're going, but you're bending down and bending up consistently, and it's almost like a combination of stretching and hiking, and it's a good exercise, and that's the exercise I choose. Anyway, so I did that for about an hour today, and then I had to go drop off my car somewhere, and I had my bike in my car, and I rode my bike a good amount of miles back to get where I got to get. And all I had this morning so far was 3 bananas, and then I had a smoothie that had another banana in it and a couple of other things in it. And that's all I've had. And it's now here, it's about 10:15 or so, and I'll have my second meal later this afternoon, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock, and maybe this evening, or I'll have an almond milk or something. Keeping it simple. Again, that works for me. I'm not going to get into the amounts again. We already did the amounts last week, so either see those videos if you didn't see them. But today I just wanted to get into supplementation, and this week I'm going to talk about supplementation. The supplements I'm taking, what I think is going to work for people, how to know what you need, if it's good or bad. I highly recommend everyone to go to www.caprofile.net and tell Dr. Shandell Paul sent you, and he'll give you some kind of discount on your test. But the longevity blood profile test, and he also has one called the cancer profile test, which is a great example, the cancer profile test, because he can take somebody who 10 years prior to them getting diagnosed with cancer can tell them if they're heading for cancer by looking at their blood work. And as I said, more than just the average blood work, but looking at their tumor markers and all these different tests, he's right up to date on the latest test to show if cancer is brewing in somebody's body. And when I took my blood test and I found these things out, and I've run them by several raw foodists, some of them would just blow it off and say, well, that doesn't matter, that's just for the standard American people, you're different, your blood range is going to be different, not to worry. Then there were other people that said, well, this is a very serious thing, and you need to take this herb, this herb, this herb, this. No. The bottom line was, folks, it was just I wasn't getting the nutrients my body needed. I wasn't getting the amount of vitamins my body needed, because even though I was eating raw food, it wasn't always in there because we messed it up. Somebody was saying in the Bible, in the Garden of Eden, didn't they just say fruit and vegetable will be food for man? Yes. But man is no longer in the garden. The food was different in the garden, and man today is in a world that's so terrible, and it has destroyed the food, and it's a completely different food than was in the garden. Completely different. Even 100 years ago, it's different. You can take an apple today from 100 years ago, and you got so much less nutrients in there than you did just 100 years ago. The same apple. And they've bred it so much today, these fruits have such more sweet and more sugar and less nutrients. I think we need to start doing the backwards of that. Less sweets and more nutrients. But this is the backwards world we live in, folks. So this week I'm going to focus on supplementation, vitamins, and these ideas. And if you have any comments or questions, post them below the video. My question for you is, if you're on a Regan. My question is, if you're on a raw vegan, that's a new word, everybody, Regan, a raw vegan. If you're on a raw vegan diet, are you doing it without supplements, or are you taking supplements? If so, what type? And are you just taking those supplements because somebody gave a talk and said you need it, or because you've actually got your blood work tested and you show you need these supplements and so on? And let me know. Put them below the video and let me know how long you've been eating raw as well. Now, finally, there's other blood work out there. There's the dark field microscopy, which is the test where they test your blood under the microscope. I'll talk about it another time. I'm not the biggest fan of those things compared to a blood test to see our nutrient levels. Those things will reveal other things, but you're not going to tell me I'm deficient in something as well as looking at a blood test by looking at one of these dark field microscopes. So when I say the blood is the messenger of the body, it's from a blood test standpoint. And in the Bible it says, thy life is in thy blood. And you can simply say that is where the life is, because the blood reveals everything. In the Bible, you could also say it meant in the blood of Messiah, that's where the life is in. But regardless, the blood is so important to keep clean, number one, and to keep nutrient supplied, number two. Not particularly in that order, and both of those are equally as important. If you could do that, you'll be doing okay. Remember, just because you're doing something and it's working isn't a reason to keep doing it when you find out it's not ideal. It's time to make some changes. And if you keep doing the same thing and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity. So make those changes, the improvements for the better. We never always have it all. We can always learn. We can always do better. And keep growing. And if you have any comments or questions, post them below the video. Have a great week and a great raw life.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.